The Kogi State Governor, Yahaya Bello, has promised to make the state a hub for agricultural activities in the country. Governor Bello made the promise in Lokoja, the state capital, during the state's agricultural summit. He said the federal government and international agencies have declared interest to partner with the state in livestock production.
Food security has become an issue of concern globally. Nigeria, with its vast natural and human resources, is not spared. Several state governments have taken steps to revive the agricultural sector, and Kogi State is not an exception. This is the reason the state government has assembled farmers, youth, women group and others to encourage them to embrace farming rather than look for white-collar jobs.
Thank you very much, His Excellency.
The arrival of the Governor Yahaya Bello kickstarts the event. According to the state government, over 2.5 billion naira has been spent on agriculture in 2017, and this gathering is to strategize on ways to boost the sector.
We have described our development plans with the keyword job creation and youth engagement. You agree with me that the agricultural policy we've put in place that we are implementing has really engaged our youth, and it has contributed into a lot of jobs that has been created.
For the representative of the federal government, everyone needs to be involved to develop the sector and reduce importation of produce.
I am happy to hear that the governor is supporting agriculture in Kogi State. We have to go back to the land. By going back to the land, we are not just talking of increasing the hectarage of oil palm in the country. We are talking of increasing the yield per hectare.
Governor Bello believes farmers should tap into the state's agricultural programs in order to make the state self-reliant.
Government will assist you in adding more value by bringing cottage industries, by signing the MOU with NNPC, so that your farm produce from cassava, sugarcane, maize, oil palm, you can just go and sell it to them. It means we are creating the market for you already. The land belongs to you. We will give you fund. We will give you farm implements. And we have created the market for you.
The highlight of the occasion is a tour of the exhibition ground by the governor. The exhibition features agricultural products by farmers in the state.
Many people in Bauchi State, northeast Nigeria, have for decades made their home on the rocks of Warinje. How comfortable are they living on the rocks, and how safe is it? Our community report tonight examines all this and looks at what the state plans to do about it.
This is Warinje, an area in Bauchi State, northeast Nigeria, known for its rock mountains. It is also on record that the founder of the state, Yakub Didi, built a city in these parts. The second thing that will probably cross the mind after the breathtaking scenery it provides is the safety of those living here. The steep nature of the terrain can be tricky, but this does not seem to affect the children who have perfected the act of climbing, making the most of the environment to have all the fun. Chores like fetching water is also something they have no trouble with, although when the hygiene of the environment is considered, a lot is left to be desired. There are days when living here had this moment of terror. 2 years ago, a boulder rolled onto a structure. Fortunately, the occupants were out on that day. For over 2 decades, these inhabitants have been able to accommodate it, but there are days when it becomes too dangerous to bear.
Whenever we see rocks rolling down from the top, we start offering prayers. This prevents the rock from getting into the house. Instead, it stops at the fence area.
Contributions from experts on this matter is always useful, and this geologist explains further the dangers of living on the rocks.
That place, I can tell you that it's very risky the way people are building on that particular rock. The upper part of the bauxite have been, weathered to big boulders, and there is excessive exfoliation, meaning that most of the minerals that form the rock are not very stable on the surface, so they are giving way. So you see, there is tendency for a lot of slumping.
Although this man understands the risk involved, he cannot afford anywhere else. Getting a place to build here costs between 10 to 20,000 naira, which makes it a homeowner's dream location.
We started living on rocks because we had no money. We couldn't afford land on the ground, so we opted for a cheaper alternative.
So if the authorities knew the dangers of this, why was nothing done to stop it? The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Lands and Work and Housing in Bauchi State, provides an answer and the way out.
We have embarked on the review of the Bauchi Metropolitan Master Plan.
The dangers of living here might be obvious, but the residents are adamant that their stay here is permanent. It is now the responsibility of the state to figure out how to provide a safer location for them to live without the fear of rocks falling on their heads.
The Minister of State for Industry, Trade and Investment, Mrs. Aisha Abubakar, is assuring Nigerians of the federal government's commitment to revive the dying textile industries across the country. The minister made the declaration during her visit to the headquarters of the National Union of Textile Garments and Tailoring Workers of Nigeria in Kaduna State, where she highlighted some of the steps taken to get the sector back in business.
In the late 1970s and 80s, Nigeria's textile industry used to be one of the most vibrant sectors of the economy, the second largest employer of labor after government, utilizing indigenous raw materials such as cotton. Sadly, its fortunes started declining in the 1990s as a result of what industry players blamed on the harsh business environment and inconsistent policies. At present, almost all the textile factories in Kaduna, Kano and Lagos have shut down and many of their workers thrown out of job. The Minister of State for Trade and Industry, Mrs. Aisha Abubakar, is on a fact-finding visit to the headquarters of the Textile Workers Union in Kaduna State. She brings a message of hope for the ailing industry.
Government will create the enabling environment. Government will give the necessary policies surrounding, but the work itself has to do. You have to monitor yourselves. You have to tell us who is doing what and who is bringing, because we're all Nigerians. Same Nigerians that will go and bring it in, will partner with Chinese or whoever and bring them in and then smuggle them in. So we have to partner, and our doors are open for that kind of partnership.
While the General Secretary of the Textile Workers Union commends the federal government's launch of the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, he, however, laments the humongous funds sunk into annual imports of foreign fabrics alone.
Today, our market now is dominated by smuggled goods, not even imported goods, because imported goods, at least you pay some duties, but smuggled goods, they don't pay revenue to government, and they undersell our products, so much. I would like to use today to call on the federal government to also set up a special task force, on smuggling with respect to textile, just like the way it has now been set up for rice production.
We cannot say that we have arrived, because it's still in the works of government policy. So nothing is concrete for now, quite open that we can say this is what has been done clearly. So they are still work in progress and they are still coming up, and they will hope something will be done.
The revival of the textile industry will hopefully provide mass employment for the citizens and also address some of the socio-economic problems facing the country. But if urgent steps are not taken to address key issues raised by industry players, that ray of hope might just be extinguished.
And now to the arts. Music Meets Art is a unique blend of spoken word and visual art which talks about the beauty of culture. And the goal is to give the audience the best from both worlds. That's what we have on Art Review tonight.
Sounds of music fill the air this art fest, a medley of poetry, music and visual arts done by the Redsa Poet Group.
As we take this journey through time. Sing, baby, come on, sing, baby. Just sing, let them know that.
Travel with me.
Oh, come on, girl.
It's a night many will not forget in a hurry, as it features soothing rhythms and rhymes. Poetry performances.
Awoof, the rumbele. I swear, ask Chris about this experience of one party weighing crash last November. Chicken bones, dismembered and rendered alongside mountain of rice or fire sauce. That was nice. Breakfast was a while going with a side of bread sliced. The performance is driven primarily by the Exposit album, and so that covers the whole catalog, which is from Awoof to Jermaine, and Jermaine is exploring the strings in friendship, to Ashake, where the poet is trying to woo a lady, down to the bliss and the future, which is reassuring about the future. From the future, we explored Lofa, which is a bit on history. After Lofa, there was One and the Same, which is speaking about the country and how much the type of leadership we have is based on the kind of followership that we have. And then I Am, which is an exploration of identity that seeks to provoke the listener to question their own identity. And hopefully when we discover who we are, we draw strength from where we're coming from to be able to get to where we're going to as a people and as individuals.
It's not only about the performances. On the sidelines, there's an exhibition going on. Sylvester Aguda is one of the visual artists showing off his unique works of art.
Art is also literature. Coming from the Roman times and all that, the Egyptian times, they illustrate words in art, in symbols. So today, it's my great joy to have that opportunity to be able to merge art and poetry, because I feel there's a fusion between the two. You know, it's just words transformed to pictures. That's what it means to me.
He talks more about this one-of-a-kind sort of collaboration.
It's works of art actually interpreting an album that was done by Rez the Poet. So today I've been invited by Rez the Poet to work with him on this exhibition. He's trying to show words and things that he has written in pictures and in art. So today, this is what we're doing here today. We are actually trying to share his words in pictures and in art, especially because he wants to be identified with heritage. He wants to see how the African theme, the African culture can be promoted through art.
The exposition is a platform for the audience to really appreciate all aspects of the arts in one room.
To education now, students and teachers in some public secondary schools in Niger State are lamenting the poor conditions of the library facilities in their school. Our correspondent in Niger State visited some of the schools where he observed that some of the library facilities are either in bad shape or lack books that are up to date.
Let's begin from Amadou Baga Secondary School, Mina. On the outside, the school structure looks well maintained, but let's check out a part of the school that ought to be the engine room for both the teachers and students, the library. Yes, this is a secondary school library. The facility is threatened by termites as well as lacking in modern books. Okwe Samuel and Patience Joseph are students in the school. They are here to get some books to read, but are confronted with the sorry state of the library.
The books are not good at all. Termites have eaten up everything. These books, they have been using them since 1960, but still, we are still using it to this year.
We need books that we can use for research or for anything that's been given to us in class.
And the teachers are also concerned.
It's really affecting the students. A student, after you might have given him an assignment or homework, he needs these materials to go through them, but he can't find them.
For you to have that confidence in coming to the library, it must be very, very conducive for you. The atmosphere is there and you have the relevant books. Okay, not such books that are as old as the school itself.
At the Father O'Connell Science College, Mina, the situation is slightly different.
Still ahead on the news at 10, we'll be looking at the performance of the Super Eagles at the just concluded African Nations Championship in Morocco, and we'll be joined by Mr. Kunle Solaja, the editor-in-chief of Sports Square Village. That's in a moment.